Welcome, everybody, to the Price Report. Every single Wednesday, we bring you a personality, an individual that has put their life into crypto. I call these people crypto lifers, of course. So I search far and wide for amazing crypto lifers, all different ages, shapes, and sizes, people from all around the world, you name it. This person, I spent some time on around the blockchain. We were both contestants on the show. We had a good time. We bumped into each other in Las Vegas at CNFT, which is Cardano's NFT. We started putting it together, networking, and I just wanted to bring my man, Infinite Crypto, Brad from Infinite Crypto. Thank you so much for jumping on in, man. I greatly appreciate your time, and thank you for being here on the Crypto Lifer show in the segment, The Price Report.
Man, thank you so much for having me. What an amazing introduction. It is an honor to be here, Sam. I really have enjoyed getting to know you over the last few months. I love what you stand for. I love your work ethic, man. Nobody works harder than you. And yeah, man, it's just a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, when I first met you, right off the bat, one thing, everyone was drinking at the event, and I noticed that you were drinking water. We had a talk. I believe you were with your wife, too, as well, right? You introduced your wife. So I saw that you were a family man. I see how much you loved her. There was this connection. I felt the same way about my family, and I knew I was with someone that cared about the space in a bigger way than just making money, right? And that was kind of what I really loved about you. That was kind of brought me in. And since then, we've been working to get you on the channel, and I'm super excited that we finally got you on. Tell me a little bit about where you come from, maybe where you live in the United States, if you'd like to disclose, and how you got into cryptocurrency and blockchain.
All right, man. I'll try to give you the condensed version. But I live in Las Vegas now. I'm originally from Washington State, kind of North Seattle, Western Washington area. Moved here to Las Vegas, I guess, about 16 years ago. Was tired of the rain, wanted some sunshine and palm trees. And man, my journey into crypto was basically my father raised me my whole life to not trade time for money. He always owned his own businesses and, taught me to be an entrepreneur, to get what I was worth, not to punch a time clock and build somebody else's dream. He was real big on building your own dream. And so, man, I tried for a lot of different things throughout my life to create financial freedom, if you will. The Lamborghinis and the big houses, all of that stuff is not important to me. But the choices, the freedom to wake up in the morning and to be able to spend the time with who I wanted to spend time with and do what I wanted to do is what was driving me. And finally, in about 2017, a really good friend of mine, a mentor, a guy that I loved and that I trusted, really started talking to me about crypto. He was buying Ethereum at $9. And unfortunately, I was going through some tough times in life. I was going through some relationship troubles with my current wife, but back in 2017, we were having some issues. Part of that was because I was broke. I didn't have a lot of money, and it's hard to have a happy woman when you're not providing properly for them. And long story short, I watched him turn about $10,000 into $2.2 million in that bull run from 17 going into the peak of 18. Well, that got my attention. And so I dove in right at the peak of that bull run, got a little taste of it, and then I got crushed off in 18, 19, and 20. But the one thing that I had was the belief. I did enough research. I watched enough YouTubers like yourself that I knew it was just a matter of time before it would all come back like it did at the end of 2020 and into going into 2021. And the one thing that I did well is I didn't sell. So even though a lot of these tokens were down 75, 85, 95%, I owned them all still. And when the bull market hit in the beginning of 2021, I made more money in about 6 months than I'd made most of the rest of my life combined. And at that point, I created my YouTube channel as a way to pay it forward because I'm so against the 40-40-40 plan, I call it, where you work 40 hours a week for 40 years of your life to try to live off of, 40% of what you weren't making it on in the first place. Man, I can't stand that. Go to work, come home, go to work, come home, go to work, just to pay for your food and your house and your car and not really experience this wonderful planet that God put us here on. So, it's been an amazing journey, and I think that guys like you and hopefully myself are going to help a lot of people over the next decade or two, or however long, God decides to leave us here on this planet, not only financially, but just in the mindset that it takes to keep it. Because as you know, that's something that's super important to me. I can help you make a lot of money, but if you don't become the man or the woman that knows how to manage it and use it properly, it will flee from you quickly. And we don't want that to happen. The people that we care about and that we love here, our viewers, man, we want to help you long time live a great life, not just make some money fast and waste it. Anyways, that's a little bit about me and how I kind of got to where I am here.
That is a beautiful story. We've all, cryptocurrency was new to me. I'd been trading before I got into crypto, and I had taken profits before, but I thought I had bought a brand new innovative tool, right? That was just going to, Cardano at 2 cents. Like, how could it ever go back, right? It went to 131. I said, you'd never sell that. And like, I couldn't believe it came back down again to the 8 cent region, like almost 5-6 cents again. I mean, and then I realized that it's a hype cycle type of thing. These coins get overvalued because the halving creates a scarcity, which people rush into Bitcoin for. It makes this like, just an eventual fiend. Like people are just like, oh, we gotta, and it creates an overvaluation of every coin. I didn't know that at the time. I thought I was buying, Amazon at $1, right? And it's funny you mentioned $9. I was in the street 2015, I believe, and I was selling drones. I had started this little I was always entrepreneuring, and I had these street fair drones I was selling. And this guy walked up, and I believe he was wearing a Bitcoin shirt. And at the time, I'd seen the logo, and I said, "Oh, I know what that is." And Bitcoin was probably 500 to like somewhere between 500 and 800 bucks at the time. And he showed me CoinMarketCap, and he showed me Ethereum at $9. And he said, I worked on this project. I helped make it. I believe this can go pretty far. I said, yeah, you should definitely buy some. And I watched it go to 89 bucks into this, in the next year into the summer. And I kicked myself. I said, man, I could have 10x'd. Like at the time, I had already invested and made some money, in the stock market. And mainly Canopy Grow Corp really helped me out a big chance. I got into it on the Toronto Stock Exchange. And so I said, man, that was a missed investment, and I'm over it now, but there's still this little feeling like, man, had I just, bought more Ethereum. But I found Litecoin at $5. I loaded up on it, put around 10 grand in there when it was between $5 and $25. I was telling everyone in my office, this is the new coin. I mean, Bitcoin went from 300 to 1,000. Ethereum went from 9 to 89. Now there's this new one for $5. And I figured, hey, if it's only, to me, it was almost like a no-brainer. I said, there's only 3 coins on Coinbase. This one's now the cheapest one. I said, people aren't going to be able to afford $500 a share, $1,000 a share, $80 to $100 a share, but they'll buy a $5 coin. And so I said, man, Litecoin's going to have its day. And lo and behold, it did. Shout out to Litecoin. You changed my life. I always remember. It's funny. That was like my one winner, Ethereum was the first coin I believe I ever purchased. But then I started trading too, little coins on Bittrex and having fun with that. You just mentioned your father. My father recently passed away on May 1st into May 2nd. Lost my best friend. He was a great man. Taught me a lot. One thing that you just mentioned is you made me think about my father, which is why I wanted to bring him up. But he said, you got to learn how to handle success. Told me a horrible story about a guy worth millions of dollars. Had a pool put in. The guys putting the pool were doing, some illicit drugs. He looked at them and said, oh, could I try that? Next thing you know, his life went down the drain. He lost his wife. He lost his family. He lost his entire empire that he had. My dad always said, you got to learn how to handle success. Like people can become successful, but can you hang on to that success? Like, can you continue to build? The difference between middle class, rich, and wealthy people, and it's really about the velocity of money, right? Wealthy people move money. It can't sit in the bank account. Like it's almost like an itch. They have an itch to use it. It's got to be used in some way. And they don't win every investment, but they continue to kind of invest. They continue to find ways to grow, right? And that challenges you as a person too, because it's not easy to put that stress on you. Now, regular people just put it in the savings account because it's easy, right? It's just easy to put it in the savings account and just wait. And now you get there's really not a lot of money back on those returns now, unless you do a big CD for like 200 or 300 grand. Even then, maybe 4.5% to 5%, which is better than it used to be, but it's not what it was. You also had your father pass away like mine. We're actually we both lost our fathers in around the same month and a half period. How are you dealing with that? Just for everyone out there that may have lost a loved one, how do you get over that? And even for me, you're an older person. I could get some advice from you. How did you deal with that? How did you move on? And, what are the best things that you remember about your dad that you can kind of convey to us to help us on our way to success?
Sure, man. Yeah, so my father passed away, I believe it was Friday, May 26th. Just seen him the previous week. He was here in Las Vegas visiting me, gave him a big hug on Tuesday afternoon, and he headed back to California where he lived. And 3 days later, I got the call that he had went out for a walk and had a heart attack while he was on the walk and didn't come back. And I'm still dealing with it. It's only 12, 13 days old.
Yeah.
But the thing that's getting me through is Jesus. My wife was dreading this day, and my dad's 81, but he quit drinking just over 50 years before he passed away. So what you were talking about, like with the handling success, one of the fondest memories that I have of my dad is that I never saw him take a drink. And it changed his life and it changed my life, because up to that point, he's making a lot of mistakes in life. He wasn't living the life that he was capable of. And, I really believe that if he hadn't quit drinking, I would have either grown up hating him and wanted nothing to do with him, or I would have became just like him. And I also know that if he hadn't quit drinking, he would have probably died a long time before he actually did. Because I've seen it in my family. I've got uncles and aunts that passed away in their early 50s because they pretty much drank themselves to death. And so, but to get back to my point, my wife is like, man, you're handling this so much better than I thought you would. And it's all because of Jesus. I know that my dad is in heaven dancing around being told by God, hey, well done, son. And that he's getting to spend time with his mom and a couple of his brothers and one of his sisters that got there before him. And the only sadness that I feel is actually the sadness of, here on earth. And something else that I know you're a huge believer in, Sam, is taking responsibility, focusing on what we can control. And, I was telling my sister yesterday, I am amazing. I'm like happy. There's a little bit of tears here because it's just a human response, but like I am doing amazing, but it's all because I'm focusing on what I control. The only things that make me sad is when I compare or think about things I don't have any control over. For instance, I've got a 17-year-old son. I was thinking that my dad was healthy, was going to be around for 10 or 15 more years, would probably get a chance to meet his great-grandchildren. And I was looking forward to my great-grandchildren having an opportunity to meet, my grandchildren getting a chance to meet their grandfather. And I think about things like that I have no control over, and it can kind of make me sad. But when I focus on what I can control, which is going out there and being hopefully a great man and an inspiration to other people, through not drinking myself. We talked a little bit about that. I never developed a problem with alcohol because of my dad's example, but about 13, 14 years ago, I just decided it didn't have any redeeming qualities in my life. And I wanted to be like my dad, so I quit drinking. So both of the children that I refer to are biologically from my wife. She had them before we met, but their dads aren't in the picture. And so I've actually adopted them. I am dad, but neither one of them have ever seen me take a drink. And so my dad changed our family tree. He broke the curse, that generational curse in our life. And, one other real fast story that I really think embodies my dad, and I think that it's important because so many folks out there don't really have people that believe in them. And I know when you were on my show, one of the moments where you got emotional was when you were talking about your wife and the few people in your life that really believed in you when you were doing this process, when you started this channel, the people that were there for you. And so I'm five years old. There's this bully guy that picks on me all the time. It seems like he's a little bit bigger than me, just a little bit older, always picking on me. And this one day we get into a scrap and we're down. We live in a 2-story house. My dad's up on the deck and me and this kid are kind of got into a scrap. We're down on the ground. He's on top of me and he's got me in a headlock and he's whooping me. And my dad looks down at me and he says, "Brad, get up." And I'll never forget, man, I looked back up at him and I said, I can't get up, Dad. And my dad said, gosh, darn it, Brad, get up right now or I'll kick your ass. Now, he meant it in a loving way, but, like he told me later, he told me that because he knew I had it in me. He knew I could get up. And when he said, get up, man, you can get up, do it. I did. I ended up getting up, and I ended up starting to do my end of the whooping on this kid. And I ended up winning that fight. And it's just a little bit of a metaphor for life that, it's important to have people that believe in you. And for any of you that don't have that in your life, you got Sam. And, and me too. We believe in you. We know you were put here on this earth to do something great with your life. And, that's why our shows exist, man. We're here to inspire you and to help you do whatever that is in your life. We were talking, he's got a sister that's a school teacher. I've got a really good friend who's super successful in life, but he's got a sister that loves teaching kids and is working with challenged kids. And like he says, just because he's a successful businessman that has tens, if not hundreds of millions, that doesn't make him better than his sister. His sister is just as valuable on this earth and doing just as much good as he is. So whatever your dreams are, we're just here to help you with those. And then, the point too, the second point to that story is that you'll get what you're willing to fight for in life. You got to be willing to step up and take a stand and fight for what you want in life. And so that's one of my favorite little stories. One of the first memories. I've got some earlier memories of my dad, but that's one of the ones at 5 years old that really stands out and kind of changed my life, shaped me, for the future.
It's funny. A similar kind of story is like I was getting bullied by a bigger kid on my hockey team. He's beating me up. I'm coming home with bruises, and my dad finally sees a few bruises on my arm, and he says, next time that kid does that, you take a hockey stick right to his neck. It's like, don't take crud from anybody. You don't need to be put down by anyone. And my dad was a fighter. He fought till his last days. One of the last days he was alive, they were redoing his water system. I had to redo the water pipes, and he, what are they doing out there? What are they doing? And he had to walk outside, and my mom said the guy had to walk him back because his back pain, he had 5 or 6 slip discs in his back, actually, and he refused to get operated on. The pain must have been unbearable. One thing I noticed about my dad the other day, I've cried when he left, and I have shed some tears. But like you, I say, well, if he's in heaven, like if I was done drugs or alcohol, I would be down on this depressive feeling, and I'd probably cry every morning and just be like, oh, but my dad, oh. But like that I'm clear-minded and I feel the logic of it. I said, well, why are you crying? If he's with God, he was in pain, And even my mom said he was like, kind of Googling ways to die peacefully in his last month. So he looked me in my face and told me 2 months before, like, I'm dying, right? And like I had this feeling, it's weird. Our relationship got very loving towards the end. He almost must have known somehow that he was going to go because, like, he never wrote XO really in text messages. But the last few months, he would be like, Sam, have a great day, XOXO. And it was like for my dad to write hugs and kisses was a little strange. He was over loving to me. The last month, we must have had in 30 days, we must have had 20 good conversations. The last time he called me, I was in Austin, Texas, at Consensus, and I was packing in my hotel room, and my phone rang, and I was like busy, but I saw it was my dad, and because he was not feeling well a lot too, I made it a point to try to, I didn't get every call. He called me a lot, like 5 or 6 times a week, and I'd miss a few because maybe I'd be on an interview right now, or maybe I'd be doing something, and I still regret those, or I don't regret them, but I wish I had gotten every call. But this one I picked up real quick, and I said, Dad, I'd love to talk to you. I'm packing up to get to the airport. I kind of like, I got to make sure every minute counts here. And like, I did my live stream that morning, no matter, most people would have packed their stuff up, but I still did my live stream last minute while I had like clothes in the dryer. I made it all timed out. And he was like, oh, just look under the bed, open the closets, open the drawers, make sure you don't leave anything in there. And like, that was probably the last thing he said to me. And it reminds me how much he cared. Like he was out there, he could have thought of his own thing. He was in pain. He was going through, he still wanted to make sure I didn't leave a wire or a cord or something that would have maybe, thrown me off, or maybe some of my equipment. And so I put this out to the live stream a lot, and people say, hey, my dad died at 14. I never had a father, still rips my heart apart. And I say, man, I had 40 years with someone who looked out for me. Maybe he was, he's an Irish crazy guy, like like it wasn't perfect. He was rough and tough around the edges, but at the end of the day, my dad looked out for me, and he built dreams for me. And I know for a fact I wouldn't be on this YouTube channel. I know for a fact I wouldn't be working 7 days a week if it wasn't for my dad's work ethic. Him reminding me of my grandfather being a bricklayer. He used to tell me, your grandfather worked 7 days a week. 7 days a week, So, with that being said, it's about having options in life, right?
Yeah.
When you give up drugs and alcohol, when you go after your life, just more options come into your life. And, the first article I want to talk about is the fact that there aren't any options, right? U.S. doesn't need more digital currency because it has the dollar, says SEC Gensler. And he's basically saying that, like, we have to be stuck with a fiat currency that we know has lost 97% of its purchasing power in the last 90 years, right? If you look at it on a scale, it just keeps going down because they keep printing it to zero. What's your take on the idea that we only have to use the dollar, that, no Cardano for you, no digital currencies for you, you got to use the SWIFT system, or you have to use the CBDC when it comes out. We'll shove it down your throat and you'll take it that way. What's your take on that? How do you feel about that? And, what kind of alternative reality do you see us living in the next 4 to 5 years and more?
Right. Well, I think it's, totally ridiculous. I mean, from the beginning of time, there's been other instruments that have been used as money. Even today, a lot of people are still old school buying gold and silver, which is a fantastic hedge against the US dollar. It's been proven over and over and over, when you have a currency that's not backed by anything, that eventually it implodes. And with the Fed printing of the money like they have the last handful of years, I mean, it's just unbelievable the way that the government thinks that they can pull the wool over our eyes and make us try to think that everything is okay, when it's not. I see so many of my friends and family struggling because everything in their life costs a whole lot more than the 8 or 9% that they're trying to tell us that inflation has been. We're talking double in some cases, and even just a lot of the commodities in this world are up at least 50-60%. And so, man, it's just kind of a ridiculous statement, but it's amazing how many people out there, to me, are just they got their heads buried in the sand and they don't understand it. They're not seeing what's happening, and they're going to get wiped out, man. That's one of the reasons that I'm so passionate about what we do. When I started this journey a few years ago, it was all about financial freedom and creating wealth in my life and helping other people to do that. But at this point, I really believe that we're in for some bad times over the next 5 or 10 years, and that people that don't position themselves properly, to heck with getting rich. Let's just make sure that you're in position to pay your bills. Like, let's make sure you're not homeless. And that's why I love cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and these digital assets, because they are going to be a hedge against the inflation that's coming. They're gonna be what saves the world, probably. And definitely the individuals that have the foresight to invest in some of these and protect themselves. It's like, the three little pigs, man. Well, Bitcoin is the rock. That's the pig that's building his house on a foundation of stone. And anybody that puts their trust in this US dollar that's becoming more and more worthless every day is going to be the one that's got the house of straw getting eaten by the big bad wolf.
I love that metaphor, man. That's, build it with bricks, blockchain bricks, right? It's like the same. I like what you're saying. Like, we talk about financial freedom, but it's almost about saving your own butt. I got into cryptocurrency because after 9/11, I started deep diving YouTube, right? And I started watching all sorts of documentaries and how did it really happen? I'll leave that alone. But I went so far, and then once I got to this institute called the inflation, national inflation, and they were like, inflation is upon us. They're gonna keep printing money. And I started studying the history of all the different currencies in the world, and then I found the fiat currency graveyard. And I saw, wow, they're going to print our money to zero. And every single politician has done it, because all a politician can do, and I'm not even blaming them, but they get themselves in the position, they make a promise, and the promise costs $5 million. Like, say a biker got killed in the local town, or a few people have been getting killed and it's unsafe. We need bike lanes. We need bike lanes for the people. I'm going to make sure your town has the bike lane, you know? So you win as mayor of this small town. And now you need to go vote for deficit spending, and you need to ask for $5 million because you need to build these bike lanes that you said you're going to build. If you don't build the bike lanes, right? And so you vote for deficit spending, you print more money, you kick the can down the road, and they're not thinking the fact that we're attached to a Federal Reserve System that's like a mafia that's making our government borrow the money at a vig, right? So every dollar, I explain this to people. If the first dollar you ever came into existence, you owed debt on, right? How do you pay the debt? You have to borrow another dollar. Then you owe debt again. And every time you bring more dollars into the system, you raise the amount of debt in which you owe to the 6 families that own the privately held Federal Reserve. One thing me and my dad would argue over, I said, Dad, you know the Federal Reserve is private. And he's like, what do you mean? You're out of your mind. Like, and I was like, Dad, it's run by like it's a private entity. Like it's not a government entity. Just because Federal Express is not a government entity, right? They put the word federal in it, but that's a privately owned mail company, right? So like people, like you can put 2 and 2 together. Just using the word federal doesn't make you a government entity, right? So the average person doesn't know this though. They believe it's all cookie cutter, taken care of in the background. They got us. The system is what it is. And the system isn't what it is, right? And so I fled into cryptocurrency because I knew that my money was going to get deteriorated. My mom was a school teacher. She did special needs for kids, right? My dad was an iron worker. He climbed up columns. He was hundreds of feet in the air building the buildings that people live in to this day, and hospitals and all that. And he risked his life. And then after they got their pensions, after they got their money, right, they get taxed all over the place. Tax on their income, right? Tax on things they buy. Excise tax on the car. And it gets to the point where people don't realize this, but after 10 years of working, when you pay 30% in taxes, right, you end up working 3 years for free out of 10 years. I never thought about it like that. Like, because you could look at, okay, I get my paycheck and they take a third out. But then look at 10 years. That means 3 of the 10 years, 3.5 of 10 years, you were working for complete free. Like you were basically waking up and going to work for zero money. You had to work 10 years to get 7 years pay. Once I figured that out and it hit me hard, I said, I need to get out of this. And then I saw rich people buying homes and living and flying and just doing all these amazing things. And I said, man, like you said, I'm not going to do the 40 for 40 for 40. Like this is not a life. God wants me to fly around the world. God wants me to inspire. God wants me to feel free and help other people feel free. And, but it takes a discipline. And like you said, you got to fight for what you get in this life. You are not going to be given a dime, right? And so you got to kick and claw and scream and just go for it, right? And so you start a YouTube channel, you get 1 viewer, you get 2 viewers. Some days you see 3 people watching and you're like, oh, well, but if you keep fighting, if you keep going, and if you keep providing value, the market will respond. And so, yeah, and that's the thing about options too. If we have to use the American dollar, that's like going down to the local street, your local main strip in your town or even to a city and saying, there's 5 pizza shops, but you can only eat this one type of pizza. Like, don't you dare even try to go to that other store. There's one type of pizza. And you're like, but this pizza's bad. It's usually burned. It doesn't taste that good. I want to go and get a margarita with fresh mozzarella and basil. Like, that to me, cryptocurrency is the margarita of pizzas. It's the freshness. It's the, those good tomatoes from Northern Italy, and I don't want to be forced to do what the government has told me to do. If we research governments throughout history, if you do exactly what the government told you to do, you're probably not going to end up in the best place, right? So thank God for cryptocurrencies. Thank God that we have this extra option out there. And it's sad that someone that's supposed to be highly educated, right, went to, I believe he went to, he either taught at MIT or he taught at MIT. He became a Goldman Sachs shill for years of his life, right? He worked for numerous other campaigns in his life, and even if you deep dive some of the things he did, even in the last few years, they're not that amazing, right? So, listening to him, I don't know. I like to listen to someone like Michael Saylor, who owns more Bitcoin than anyone in the world. And I'm not saying you have to have all Bitcoin too. There's beautiful other coins out there, but we should have options, right? And we shouldn't be told that it has to be one way or it's the highway. And the second a government agency or someone in the government is telling you it has to be one way, they're usually getting paid. They're usually shilling it for a reason. There is an underlining reason why they're pushing you into that pigeonholed sense of living. Just not the way to be at all. Which brings me to our next topic, which is the Swift banking system, which has been the only way to send money for a long time. Sending Swift takes 3 or 5 days. If you do it on Friday, you got to wait the weekend, right? If I wanted to send you money right now, it would be so much easier for me to send you Tether or Bitcoin or Cardano, XRP, Litecoin. The list goes on. Nano is free. You can send Nano free of charge. So Swift using Chainlink in a new experiment with Citi, Bank of New York Mellon, BNB Paribas, and others. I mean, this is huge. Now you see that the traditional legacy banking system is saying, hey, why aren't we using these faster systems to send money? Why are we, sitting on our hands and doing the same things over and over again? Chainlink being an oracle that connects blockchains to outside informational sources, amazing. I still hold Chainlink. I started getting into $1.78. Sold a little bit in the bigger bull run when it got a little bit of a spike, but I still believe it's going to be one of the mainstay coins over time. Do you own any Chainlink? What's your thoughts on this awesome article? Do you see any other coin that you think is even better for this process that you've been researching?
Yeah, I love Chainlink. I am a little bit of a fan of Tika Twari and Palm Beach Confidential. And so he was talking about Chainlink way back at a quarter, back in 2018. I didn't buy it quite that early. I was more like you at around $1.25 to $1.50, $1.75. But yeah, it's been one of my favorite investments, one of my favorite tokens for a long time. I think it's going to do amazing in this next bull run after, the Bitcoin halving and, towards the middle to end of 2025, it's going to do some amazing things. Yeah, I'm excited about this article. I think it's a fantastic step in the right direction. One of the things about cryptocurrency that we know is it's so much better than the current system that it's inevitable. So a lot of people talk about, this country banning this and this country banning that. And what if the U.S. decides that this is illegal? And it's kind of, it reminds me a little bit of like the movie Jurassic Park, life will find a way. And, I really love BitBoy, Ben Armstrong's example of way back in the day when automobiles started to take over the horse and buggy industry and how much opposition and ridicule and things that the automobile industry went through, most of it from the horse and buggy manufacturers because they didn't want it to come in. But, he makes the point that the automobile was such an incredible solution to our traveling needs compared to a horse and buggy that it was inevitable. And I really believe that is a very, very good, way to look at cryptocurrencies. That there's a lot of people that want to get rid of them, which is crazy because it's such a better financial instrument than what we're using. But I just don't think that anybody out there is going to be able to stop it, man. It's on a train that is going to keep moving. And once again, it's just our job to get out there and educate people as much as possible. Because like you said, the average population, they just don't know. And so we gotta get out there and let them know so that they have an opportunity to at least, make a decision, kind of like our faith with Jesus. There's a lot of people out there that never have had one person in their life really talk to them about Jesus. And, it's our job to kind of get out there, at least give them the information so that they can make an intelligent decision. Well, crypto is like that too. The average person doesn't understand it. They're getting brainwashed. I mean, my own kids, I love my kids and they're doing great, but man, I watched them over the last handful of years. One of them just graduated from high school and is 19. One of them is graduating from high school. They just get pounded into them. Go to work or, go to school, get a good education, get a good job. They come out of high school. My daughter had no idea what a credit card was, exactly how it worked, how having one would affect her credit score. She didn't know how to balance a checking account. Like she didn't know any of the skills that were important to go out and have success in life. And I'm okay as a parent in teaching my children that, but we definitely cannot rest back on our laurels and wait on the traditional educational systems to teach people about this new technology. We got to get out there and just, and pound it ourselves.
Quick trivia question for you. How long did it take for the first stop sign to be created from when the first automobile was on the road?
Man, I have no idea. That's a good question. I'm looking forward to the answer.
Took
What,
about
10 years?
took about 20 to 25 years, right?
20 to
For
25
the stop
years.
sign to
Wow.
be, you know what I mean? So that, like,
Yeah.
you kind of, in reference to what you said about BitBoy, I like to make the comparison to Uber, right? And why I bring that up is because I lived in New York City for years. When I lived in New York City and it was raining, everyone took cabs in the rain. Most people would have walked, right? But if now you can't walk from block to block, you got to take a cab. You can't get soaked, right? You can't show up in your business meeting soaked to the bone, right? So you got to come out, get the umbrella. And everyone tried to get the same cabs in the rain. So I had to find certain corners like 23rd and 6th, which is a main intersection. I had to go walk over maybe a block over or walk down to 22nd Street. And I had to front run the crowd and try to get my cab, And now you can just sit, because everyone's after two main things. I mean, everyone's after all different things, but there's two mainstays in our lives. It's time and money, right? We either sacrifice time for money, or we sacrifice money for time, And so anything that can give you more time, people will pay a little bit money for, or if it's around the same cost or cheaper. Right now, I can call an Uber. And actually, the other day, I took a cab home. I finally took a yellow cab. Every once in a while, I'm like, I'll take a yellow cab. I feel bad for these guys, right? The guy charged me $90 to get home from the airport. Then I had to give him like a $10 tip. And it was $100 to go a 27-minute ride. An Uber would have cost me like 30, even with the high-end time frame, it would have been maybe $50. And I would have, the guy would have said my name. He would have put my a lot of them come and grab your bag, but they put your bag in the back seat of the car. They want a good review. They want to keep that relationship going.
Right.
So who wouldn't use Uber? I mean, it's faster and it's more convenient. Same idea why cryptocurrency is going to win. It's obvious to anyone that knows anything about technology and information. To me, it just blows my mind, which brings me to the last topic, which is that people are figuring this out, right? Bitcoin is becoming a form of Web3 money, right? If the internet becomes the biggest, first we had the internet, now we have money on the internet. Like soon you're going to log into all your sites. MetaMask is the future, and I'm not saying MetaMask itself, but the idea that you log into the site with your digital ID, you connect to the sites actually, right? Before, you'd go to Gap and have to buy something from Gap, which I don't suggest, but, it just came to my mind. Or you'd go to any website, J.Crew, American Eagle, Abercrombie, wherever it is, and you got to put in your name, make a password sometimes, right? Log into the website. How many passwords do you need? How many logins are you doing? If one gets hacked, then they got your credit card information. Now you have your credit card information, it's 17 different sites all over the internet. How about if your credit card information or your payment situation sat inside of a wallet? You would connect that one wallet and then do your business all over the internet. That is a Web3 identity. That's where we're headed, right? That's where the future of money is going. Now, Bitcoin are obviously, some say it's not the fastest, but it will have Lightning Network. They're starting to build ordinals. And you're seeing the market generate almost $100 billion in revenue last year from global digital payments. And they project it will go to $303 billion by 2030. And I think that's even low. I think we'll get even exponentially more than that. Bitcoin attitudes progress to the date, right? More and more people understand that they're printing money to zero. More and more people understand what scarcity is. We're teaching people every day about the financial system and what happens. DeFi teaches you how much the banks are really making behind your back on your money. Now DeFi says, no, we'll actually give you more of that money. You can be actually, before the exchanges held all the money. They were the market makers. Now you can make an LP token and you can become someone who actually adds liquidity to an exchange, right? And you can get that percentage on every single transaction on that exchange, like Uniswap. So with this going forward, I'm excited. This article kind of, puts in what me and you were saying. How do you feel about the, people your age as compared to your kids? You did mention your kids a lot, but I wanted to see, do you see any movement? Do you see people in everyday space? Or are we still a little bit behind as the common people that you talk to around on your channel in Las Vegas?
Yeah. Well, I definitely think that I'm getting ready to turn 50 next month. And I think folks my age and older, it's taken them a little bit longer to jump on board this train, where, my kids are already excited about it. My son, especially, he owns a bunch of crypto and sees the future of it, excited about Web3, and definitely have taught them from a young age to, try to invest in some of these assets. My daughter owns some crypto too. She's just not quite as active in it. She's a little bit more engaged in life and just being a 19-year-old going to college and stuff. But my son and I, developed a pretty close bond, and we do a lot of stuff together. So he helps edit my videos on my YouTube channel. And I always offer him, hey, would you rather have, $30 in cash, or do you want $30 in Bitcoin, or $30 in Chainlink? Or, sometimes if it's a token that I'm doing a video on a specific token, I'll say, hey, would you like to have $30 in this token? And he just about always takes the token. Every once in a while, something, he wants to go out on a date or do something, and he'll take, a little cash, but 90% of the time he puts his money into crypto, and he's built up a pretty big portfolio. So I do see that a lot of the world is starting to wake up and understand, what's coming. And Bitcoin is going to be the number one coin for a long time to come. I'm an altcoin guy. I really love creating wealth with altcoins. But even me, if somebody told me, hey, you can either invest in Bitcoin or not invest in crypto, I would say go all in, put every penny that you can into Bitcoin. For folks that have made it in life, that might still be one of the best ways to go. Like if you're already pretty financially successful, you've got, a nice bank account and you're doing well in life, you could probably just buy some Bitcoin and never even mess with altcoins. Now, for some of the folks that I'm working with that are struggling, living paycheck to paycheck, they got $50 here, $100 there. I do try to get them a firm foundation. I think even when you're starting small, you want to buy Bitcoin and Ethereum, Chainlink, Polkadot, Matic, Cardano, Ripple. But once you kind of get a little bit of a base, if you really want to have an opportunity to, like my mentor did, take 10,000 and turn it into 2 million, you got to work your way down the old coin market cap, list, and get down into some tokens that are maybe ranked 2, 3, 400th, and give yourself an opportunity to 50 or 100, or in some cases, I've had some investments at 1,000x on me, and it doesn't take a whole lot of money at 1,000x to move the wealth needle in your life. So
that is impressive. I haven't yet to do the 1,000x, 100x once in my life. I have 50x though, like more than 5 times. I have 30x to 10 times, 20x like another 10 or 20 times. So the returns in cryptocurrency can change your life for sure. There's a main reason why everyone waits for these bull runs and the halving for Bitcoin. Today was amazing, Brad. I got to know a lot about you. You mentioned your dad, your son, your wife. I can see that you're a family guy, right? You've spent a good portion of this interview kind of bringing us deep into your life, explaining, what makes you tick, what keeps you going. And it's obviously your family and your loved ones in your life. Also, your relationship with God is getting you through some of the hardest times in your life. My wife always used to say to me, because I'm a sensitive guy, and she see me go through ups and downs, she said, wow, when your dad passes, like, because her dad passed 2 years ago, and she's like, when you go through this, like, oh man, it's gonna be tough for you. And she even said this, it's funny, I got this, she said, wow, like, you're taking it so well. And the reason why I'm taking it so well is my relationship to God. I have 2 sisters and a mom. I watched my mom like fall down in front of the casket and like kind of shake. I couldn't sit there and cry at the wake. I couldn't, that was when I had to give my sisters bear hugs like my dad gave them and be that piece of my dad that they were looking for. At one point I felt my sister holding me and I was hugging her and I knew she had that connect. She's like, my dad used to hug me like this. Now it's Sam. Now Sam is giving the hugs. Like, I'm the man now. I heard his voice say, you're the man now, Sam. Like, it's time to be strong, right? So as that role, as you take over the only male figure, protecting your mother and your sisters and going through that hard time, like, I had to find strength, and I found strength in God. Even though my dad is gone and all the ones that what your dad would say. Like, I miss calling my dad. I miss getting, that little piece or that little gem, or he'd tell me an old story and he'd connect it to kind of teach me something. But at the end of the day, I ask myself and I close my eyes. Like right now I could say, Dad, what do you think? And he'd be like, great interview, Sam. You guys talked about what matters, like, keep it up. You look good. You dress nice. I like it. You're representing the family. Like, that's what my dad would have said. Like, I know what he would have said to me when I really sit and meditate and I connect him and God and hear their voices. So, thank you so much, man. When you reached out to me and you did mention on Twitter DMs that your dad had passed, it felt like we were in this together. And I knew we were going to
Yes.
have a great interview where we would intertwine this topic, because tomorrow someone might watch this interview and a loved one of them may pass away a few days after this. We never know how long this piece of content will go, but what we said in here is everlasting, right? This is everlasting. And we call evergreen content, because at any moment in time, someone can hear our words and they can find that solace and that calm and that peace. And to know if we can get through it, that they can get through it. And it's not going to be easy. It comes in waves. Some days it hits you harder than you'd ever want. You want to hear that voice. You want to have that connection you had your whole life, especially if you had a father in your life as long as I did, as long as you did. But, they left us with strength. They left us with respect, and they left us with love. And with that, Brad, I just want you to end this interview. Tell people where they can find you. Talk, and any last kind of things you want to say. And thank you so much for coming on the show. I really, really appreciate it.
Man, it was one of my favorite shows. This is what it's all about. And like you said, it's, I hope that people like this show and that it does, change some lives. And like you said, somebody might be watching this 5 years from now and it has an impact on their life because we didn't just talk about superficial making money. That's a component. Hopefully we gave some people some good information about how to do that a little bit too. But so thank you so much for having me. Like you said, I'm on the Infinite Crypto YouTube. Should pop right up at the top of the YouTube search if you just type in Infinite Crypto. On Twitter, my handle is at CryptoBradV to connect with me on Twitter. And yeah, man, feel free to DM me if you've got any questions about anything that we talked about. And I'll just finish this up real quickly. It says in the Bible that God loves us even more than our human parents, which if you have a good set of human parents like Sam and I did, that's hard to believe sometimes. But for those of you that are out there that maybe didn't get as lucky in the parent department, because I've got some, even my wife, I'm not going to go into her story, but she was not blessed in the parent department the same way that I was. But the peace that she has found through having this relationship with God and knowing that God loves her and wants to be in relation with her, means all of the world. So whether you have had great parents or even if you haven't, God will never let you down. One of my friends says everything in life is happening for us, not to us. And I love that because I've found that it's so true in my life. If I look back on circumstances in my life that I thought were horrible at the time, a job that I didn't get, a business deal that fell through, my family member, my father passing, those things that seem horrible in the moment, every time as some time goes by, I see the good that came out of it. Even with my father passing, I used to be a little bit on the timid side talking about my faith. I never wanted to offend anybody. I was a little nervous, especially if I was out in public, but like lately I've been going and playing basketball because it's a good way to get in shape. And it's also a good way for me to feel like I'm with my dad because my dad and I used to do that. And lately at the basketball court, God's been putting people on my heart. And I just walk over to a stranger and say, hey, I know this is going to sound kind of crazy. This is out of the blue, man. But my dad just passed away a few days ago. What could have been the worst time of my life has actually been pretty amazing because I know he's in heaven with Jesus. And I just wanted to come and tell you, share with you. I don't know if you're a Christian, if you're not a Christian, I don't care. But I just want to share the love of Jesus with you. And it's helped my boldness. So just for those of you that are out there, if you don't know Jesus, if you don't have a relationship with God, and you have any type of a desire to learn more about it, I'm sure that Sam would say you can connect with him too. He'd be happy to share and point you in the right direction. And once again, no judgment. If you don't, that's cool. We're not trying to press our beliefs onto anybody. But man, that saying, you've all seen the bumper sticker that says no God, no peace, like N-O, no N-O peace, N-O, God. And then it says K-N-O-W, God, K-N-O-W, peace, no God, no peace, no God, and no peace. Man, that has never meant more to me than it did in the last 12 years or 12 days of my life, because knowing God has given me a peace that is it's hard to understand unless you feel it for yourself. So with that, folks, I just thank you again, Sam. I got a feeling you and I are going to become incredible friends over the rest of our lives, my friend. I love you, brother. Thank you for having me on the show.
I love you too. It's I believe God speaks in coincidences too. Something, and earlier today on my channel, I learned from Ed Millett, who's, just a lot of people, and he said, he was supposed to be a big, I think, into sports, and he blew out his leg or his knee, and he said, why did this happen to me? And then he ended up becoming really good in his business and changing his life. And I remember I was on the train platform one day, and that's when I was listening to him and one of his podcasts, and he said, you got to change, why did this happen to me, to why did this happen for me? And I brought that up today on my show, which I don't bring up every day, but today I brought that up on my show, and you brought it up again. So, with that, God bless you, man, and thank you so much. And this has been an amazing interview.
Real fast on that note,
Yep.
I actually should have given him the credit. I listen to Ed Millett almost every single day. He's one of my favorite guys. He's on my Dream 25 list. He's a guy that I look forward to getting to know and being friends with too. So yeah, that's another great place, another great resource, folks, for you to go. If you've never heard the name of Ed Millett before, he is phenomenal.
And is it a coincidence again that a lot of the most successful people that I listen to have a relationship with God? And with that being said,
Yep.
God bless you, Brad, and thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you on the next Price Report.